Welcome to part number 5 of our tutorials. So this section is all about testing our Django application. Now testing is a very important part of creating any application, and I think I don't need to explain the importance of testing. So let us just scroll down and let us see what they want us to do. So they are describing why do you need tests and some simple testing strategies. So there is one very popular testing strategy by the name of test driven development. So what happens in this strategy is first we would write the test and then we would write the code. But right now let us go with the flow, and they are saying that we can write our first test and we also have a bug inside our code. So let us go back to our terminal and let us try to find the bug. So let me stop my server, let me clear up my screen, and let us go inside the Django shell. Now here we need to import a couple of things. So first let me import date time. Next, from Django.utils I want to import my time zone, and next from our polls application I want to import our models. Now what we want to do is let us create a date which is 30 days in the future. So let us create a variable by the name of future date, and let me get today's date and time. So I can say time zone.now, and let us add 30 more days to this one. So I can say date time dot time delta, and then we can say we want to pass the keyword argument of days and we want 30 days. So now we have a future date. So if you want, you can just check out the future date. So this is how it looks like. Next, let us try to create a question by using the future date. So let us create a variable by the name of future question. Then we can use our model of question, and here let us give the argument for the publication date as our future date. And now let us try to check if this question was recently published. So remember, let me just open up my code editor, and if we go to our models file, here we can see that we have created this method of was published recently on our model of question. So let us try to invoke this method and let us try to see the output that we are getting. So let us go back to our terminal, and now I can say from my future question, let us invoke that method was published recently, and this method is giving us an answer of true, but the expected answer should be false because we have created a question that is 30 days in the future, and our logic for was published recently was that the question should be published just one day prior to today. So obviously there is some bug inside our code. So let us go back to our code editor and let us see how we can write a test to expose this bug. Now let me close all of these files. I don't need all of them. Let me open up my sidebar, and inside our polls application, let us open up the file for test. Now I don't need the comment. Let me go on the top, and I want to import my date time. Next, I also want to go to my Django.utils and I want to import my time zone. Next, we want to import our models. So we can say from my polls.models, I want to import my question. Now let us create a class and let us give it the name for question model test, and this has to inherit from the test case. Now please keep in mind, whenever you are writing a test, it's a convention to add the word of test inside your class name. Now once inside the class, let us create our first method. So we can say, and here we can say that I want to create a test for testing was published recently with my future question. Again, please keep this thing in mind that as a convention, we always use the word of test while defining our methods. Now this has to inherit from self. Now let us see how we can write the body for this method. So again, let us create the future time. So let me create a variable of time, and I can say that my time zone dot now, and we want to add 30 more days to this one. So time delta, and the days we want is 30. The next thing is, let us create the variable for our future question, and we can use our model, and let us create an instance, and let us pass the key value pair for our publication date, and let us assign the future time to this one. Next, let us see how we can test. For testing, we can use an inbuilt method called as assert is. Sorry, let me get the spelling right. It has to be assert and is. Now what we want to do is, we want to assert that my future question was published recently should give us an output of false. Now this assert is, this is a method which is coming from the test case that we have just inherited, and what this method is trying to do is, it simply wants to compare our output of this one to false. So in case both of these conditions are false, that means our test is passing. Now let us go back to our terminal and let us see how we can test this one. So we can say that python manage.py, and I want you to test my polls application. Now as expected, we have a failure that you can see right over here, and the type of failure is an assertion error, true is not false, and this is coming from our test.py at line number 13. So again, if you go back to our code editor, so this is a line where we are getting a failure, and that's because this method is creating a question in the future which it should not create. So now let us open up our models and let us see how we can take care of this bug. So it's happening inside our method was published recently. So here let us create a variable for now, and let me just take this one out and let me put right over here. Now what we want to do is, our publication date should be less than today. And what do we mean by today? That is what we are capturing inside this variable of now. So what we need to say is, our publication date should be less than or equal to now, but this condition is not sufficient. Our publication date should also be less than or equal to just one day. So in case the question was published more than a day back, that means it is not recently published. So here what we can say that, again now that is today, and from today we want to subtract one day. So we can say again date time dot time delta, and we can say that we want to subtract one day. Now let us go back to our terminal. Let me clear up all of these things, and let us try to run the test one more time, and this time we have a success. So we get the OK, and it says that it ran one test in so and so seconds. So as you can see, we have just fixed our bug, and which was inside our models. Now let us go back to our documentation and let us see what's happening. Here they are showing that how we can find the bug. So we did this inside our terminal, and then they are showing that how we can write the test. So we saw this one as well. Next they are showing that how we can run our test. So we did this one as well, and in the first scenario we get a failure, true is not false, and the next one we actually fix the bug, and after fixing the bug, when we ran our test, at that time our test was passing and we get the message of OK back. Now let us see what's happening next. Now here they're saying that we can write a couple of more comprehensive tests. Now let me just copy and paste from here because these tests are really simple. So let us go back to our code editor and let me open up my test.py file, and inside the class let me paste all of the code. Let me get my formatting right. This has to go inside and this is okay. Now let us see what's happening in this one. So in the second test, we are trying to check with an old question. That means if the question was published more than one day back, that means our method of was published recently should give us the value of false. So that's what they are doing. So on line number 20, as you can see, they are taking today's date and time, and from today's date and time they are simply subtracting 1 day and 1 second. So this means that our question was created more than 24 hours by just 1 second. Now it doesn't matter if we are delayed by a second. If we are more than 24 hours, then the answer should be false. Now on line number 21, they are creating an instance of our question, and on line number 22, they are using the same method, which is assert is. Now here we are calling the method was published recently, and we are expecting false from this method, and that's what we are trying to compare right over here. Now what's going to happen in this test is this is going to give us an false, and we are also expecting a false. So false and false, that means this test is going to pass. Now let us have a look at the next one. Oh, I need to get my spacing right, so let me take it inside the class. For this test, we are trying to test with the recent question. So again, the logic remains the same. On line number 30, we are creating today, and here what we want to do is we simply want to subtract 23 hours, 59 minutes and 59 seconds. That means we are still 1 second shy of 24 hours. So that means this question is recently published. So in this case, our method of was published recently should give true, and that's what we are trying to compare right over here. So again, this will be true and this is true. That means this test should pass. Now let me save the file and let us go back to our terminal. Again, let me clear up all of these things and let us run the test one more time. So again, this time it is saying that it ran 3 tests and all of them are passing. So if you go back to our code editor, we can see that we have one class for question model test, and inside this class we have 3 tests that we have defined right over here. So everything is matching. We have defined 3 tests and we ran 3 tests and all of them are passing. Now let us go back to our documentation and let us see what's happening next. So this is what we have covered up till now, and the next one is about testing a view. So I think we will see how to test a view right in the next video.